The FIA GT1 World Championship began in April on the fantastic Abu Dhabi circuit at night time. The multicoloured field of beautiful GT cars raced hard from the outset. Things didn't start too well for Nissan, however, as a couple of incidents cost them useful places and indicated a difficult season ahead. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Corvette did start strongly. The qualifying race winner moved into third place, chasing the Ford GT of Thomas Much and the Vitaphone Maserati of Bartels. Problems to the Marc Basseng Lamborghini preceded the pit stops. Much handed the Ford to Romain Grosjean, and as the Corvette rejoined, Grosjean had done enough on new tyres to retain the lead. The Corvettes were strong, however. They snatched third as well with Mike Hasemans, but victory number one went to Ford. The teams moved to Silverstone for the Tourist Trophy in somewhat cooler conditions, and a complete reversal of fortune afflicted the Ford. Grosjean was tapped into a spin at the start, never really recovered. A more dramatic retirement affected Mike Hasemans' Corvette, but that just left the door open for others to star. The number 12 Mad Trot Corvette lost out in some of the argy-bargy, and Henri Moser was another loser in the Swiss racing team Nissan. Aston Martin came through to win on the road, but due to a technical infringement, victory went to the Nissan of Campbell, Walter and Hughes, while the Vitaphone Maserati could only finish 7th. That changed next time out in Brno. The Maserati started from pole position, but what could have been an easy win was denied by a jump start penalty. That meant a stop-go for the Maserati and no way to win. Another Maserati, the Triple H car of Alexander Margaritis, went out in an incident with the Ford GT of Bas Leinders. And that led to some Belgian histrionics. Once the race was back up to speed, Michael Bartels moved up through the order once more, going ahead of teammates Ramos and Bernoldi to score some crucial points for both cars despite problems. But race victory went to the Ford GT of Grosjean and Much, and that meant the Martech Ford drivers enjoyed a 12-point lead over the Maserati boys as they travelled to the south of France. Lamborghini came on song at Paul Ricard, but while Peter Cox led away, he was deemed to have jumped the start. Warren Hughes started aggressively in the Nissan, and he would pick up a penalty as well, which meant that Maserati would pick up the pieces. Jamie Campbell-Walter made up for some of the earlier disappointment. But for the first time in 2010, Michael Bartels brought the number 1 Maserati home for a championship race win. Next on the calendar, the classic test of Spa-Francorchamps, where both Lamborghini and Corvette were strong. As they plunged into Eau Rouge, the Murcielago of Ricardo Zonta had the advantage. But soon, the Mad Trot Corvette of Xavier Marson was eating up the tarmac and the gaps with a huge appetite. Marson was able to take the lead on home turf and get ahead of the 2 Lamborghinis, which were involved in their own particular little battle. Peter Cox was closing up, and he moved up into 2nd position. But out in front, problems for the Corvette. A puncture put him off the road, and Corvette's first championship race win was denied by a puncture on that right rear that would put them out of the race. They were absolutely gutted. Meanwhile, Richard Westbrook was making his debut in the Ford GT, and it was impressive. A quick pit stop put his teammate Thomas Much out ahead of the Lamborghinis, but Frank Kekler was not to be denied, and to the delight of the Reiter engineering team, he was able to get the Lamborghini ahead and go through to take victory for Lamborghini, their first championship race win of the season. The crews travelled from Spa to Nürburgring next, and in Germany's heartland, it was Aston Martin that shone. Thomas Enger and Darren Turner were the class of the weekend, while the incidents all seemed to happen behind. Thomas Much was racing hard in the Ford, determined to narrow the points gap to Maserati, and he had to survive 1 or 2 scary moments along the way. His determination knew no bounds, but it wasn't to work for them, thanks to Ricardo Zonta, making the move down the inside into the first corner that put Much into the spin. And despite Richard Westbrook's attempts to recover later in the race at the expense of Enrique Bernoldi, it was a disappointing result for Ford. Victory went to Aston Martin, and that put Enger and Turner 3rd in the points as everyone travelled south to Portimao. The Much Westbrook Ford had qualified at the back, but a strong qualifying race put them 5th on the grid for the main event, and thankfully they avoided some of the first lap chaos. The tricky ups and downs of Portimao caught out a few people, but made for some breathtaking racing. A brilliant pit stop by the Vitaphone crew meant Bartels and Bertolini gained a big advantage out in front. But Westbrook was pushing hard in the Ford, passing the Corvette for second and then closing the gap to the leader. Neither Aston Martin nor Lamborghini had a particularly successful time in Portugal, and victory went to Maserati for the second time this season, putting them at the top of the list of contenders.
Some friend of mine told me, you have 27 points, but it's not enough. And if you consider we have 3 races to go, is around 100 points, 99.
Of course, I'm looking for the second place or maybe the World Championship. But to be honest, the Maserati is far away at the moment. But in racing, everything can happen, and we will fight to the end of the season for sure.
Well, we're gonna put everything into it. Everything what we have, everything what we know, everything what we can. Me, Darren, and the whole team. And obviously, we know it is hard to catch up and even beat the #1 Maserati.
It's quite difficult to catch up the 27 points, but I think it's possible to do, and we will do all our best to achieve that, to be champion at the end of the season.